I found my experiences on pure DMT, both of them, utterly terrifying. And if I try to pin down what the terror came from, I'm not absolutely sure what it was. It was the strangeness and the purposive nature of the realm, that I had been put into a space where something was going to be done to me. And I think I wanted out, and at the same time I couldn't get out. And that, it was almost a feeling of terror and claustrophobia combined with that. I was thrashing around. I wanted out of there, but I couldn't go.
That experience sort of, it was different from any other DMT experience that I had. Like, when I smoked it, I felt like I got abducted right at that moment. Like aliens sort of, you know, waited for me to smoke my bowl, and then they abducted me.
The entities you see on DMT, are they real or not? Tall order, very difficult to really unpack that. For one thing, what do you mean by real? Right. Let's start there.
Sure. Again, I don't know. Let's say it's not real. In a Carl Jung way, it's a shared human archetype. What is that programming that you take DMT, that you release a little bit of during deep sleep, during vivid dreams, and a ton of when you die?
When he first left the body and had a near-death experience himself, he went into a realm that was classically the realm of the demons and the what I would call the archons and the reptilian entities and all this stuff. In fact, he talks about seeing reptilian beings brushing against him and all that stuff.
I go through the tunnel, going through a tunnel, and I see a hand, and it like stops me. And I see the fingers mutating, it turns into like 3 fingers, and then it starts backing out. And then it's the Bahamut, like the Satan figure with the goat and shit.
Now, of course, many scientists would say this is just brain candy. This is just an illusion of your own brain, disturbed brain chemistry. I don't agree with those scientists. I can't.
Like, it's occurred to me over the years that what we call imagination might simply be a hyperdimensional perception, and you're actually seeing worlds and places that truly exist somewhere scattered through the galaxies like grains of sand.
You know, in the Amazon, they believe that there is an intelligent spirit that lies behind ayahuasca. They don't think they're dealing with just plants, and who are we to say they're wrong? The shamans believe that an intelligent entity, a spirit being, lies behind the ayahuasca beverage.
And he's like, well, Alex, I just don't believe in demons, but I did see basically aliens come up to the edge of the forest, and we were all seeing it, and we were all seeing the same thing, but I think it was a chemical reaction. You don't have everybody gets drunk, we all think about what happened to us in high school or college, or what's good or what's bad. We all have different experiences. When you're taking an hallucinogen, and suddenly you're all seeing the same thing, it just means that the filter is off.
Thank you for watching Odyssey Media, guys. This is Nico Dremis back again. This video is a huge attempt to show you the connectivity between consciousness itself and the realm of quantum mechanics and quantum entanglement, and how our consciousness itself can derive and move around subatomic particles in instantaneous speeds faster than the speed of light. The duality of man shapes his reality. The superposition takes control of the entanglement, and the non-locality principles of the parallel ultimate universes. But first we must have to look at the occult within our own societies. And this video is here to present that. This video is here to show you guys the evidence of our world today that science itself describes, and what consciousness is in all realm. The different realms and dimensions that are connected to those that know what the universe truly is. These secret occult societies know the truths of our subatomic realms, and they use it against society itself in an occult manner, the darkness. I'm here to expose that. Thank you so much. Make sure you are subscribing. Odyssey Media, Nico Dremis.
In the name of the free, vaccinations for illness that will never be, the assault on your children's impressionable minds, and a microchipped world, you'll put up no fight. Information suppression will keep you in tone. Depopulation of peasants was always our goal. But eugenics was not what we hoped it would be. Oh yes, it was us that funded Nazis. But as long as we own all the media too, what's really happening does not concern you. So just go on watching your plasma TV, and the world will be run by the ones you can't see.
Really consists of three aspects. There is a new world political system that everyone today is calling the New World Order. As well as that, there is an economic plan for the New World Order, and that is called the New World Economic Order. In addition to those two items, there is a third plan for religion. You see, the planners of the world know that men need a religion of some kind, even if it's a false one. So they have a plan to give us a new age world global occultic religion. So really there's three aspects to this new world order. A new world economic order in which a computer chip will be injected into our hands or foreheads as a means to track, control, and identify us, and will also be used to make our purchases and scan and store.
Well, they've already put the program in Los Angeles. In fact,
Right.
a trilateralist named Mayor Bradley, Uncle Tom Bradley, was responsible for putting this in dogs.
Right.
And your children will be considered like animals. Like animals. And operating through the Council on Foreign Relations, through the Trilateral Commission, through the Club of Rome, through Global 2000, which wants to reduce the population of the planet by, 25%. 25, that's 1,250,000,000 people have to be exterminated by the year 2000.
Well, they can do that.
So
They have
essentially,
the technology.
this Illuminati is the group of men who control not only all the money on the planet through all the world banks and the Federal Reserve and so on, but they control essentially all the governments. And so these men are planning to bring about a global form of government that's unique in all history. It's a total enslaving system of world communism and fascism, controlled by a hierarchy in Europe that Anthony calls what? The oligarchy.
Well, no, I call it the evil-archy.
The evil-archy.
The oligarchy of evil.
So these men are satanically inspired, and of course we get that term from the Bible, which means the devil. They're satanically inspired to bring about a global form of government to every nation on earth.
Are all about transcendence and living forever and the secrets of the universe, and they want to know all this. Some are good, some are bad, some are a mix. But the good ones don't ever want to organize. The bad ones didn't want to organize because they lust after power. Powerful consciousnesses don't want to dominate other people. They want to empower them, so they don't tend to get together until things are really late in the game. Then they come together. Evil's always defeated because good is so much stronger. And we're on this planet, and Einstein's physics showed it, Max Planck's physics showed it, there's at least 12 dimensions. And now that's why all the top scientists and billionaires are coming out saying it's a false hologram. It is artificial. The computers are scanning it and finding tension points where it's artificially projected and gravity's bleeding in to this universe. That's what they call dark matter. So we're like a thought or a dream that's a wisp in some computer program, some God's mind, whatever. They're proving it all. It's all coming out. Now, there's like this sub-transmission zone below the third dimension that's just turned over to the most horrible things is what it resonates to. And it's trying to get up into the third dimension that's just a basic level consciousness to launch into the next levels. And our species is already way up at the fifth, sixth dimension, consciously, our best people. But there's this big war trying to basically destroy humanity because humanity has free will, and there's a decision to which level we want to go to. We have free will, so evil's allowed to come and contend, and not just good. And the elites themselves believe they're racing using human technology to try to take our best minds and build some type of breakaway civilization where they're going to merge with machines, transcend, and break away from the failed species that is man, which is kind of like a false transmission because they're thinking what they are is ugly and bad, projecting it onto themselves instead of believing, no, it's a human test about building us up. And so Google was set up 18, 19 years ago. I knew about this before it was declassified. I'm just saying I have good sources. That they wanted to build a giant artificial system. And Google believes that the first artificial intelligence will be a supercomputer based on the neuron activities of the hive mind of humanity with billions of people wired into it with the Internet of Things. And so all of our thoughts go into it, and we're actually building a computer that has real neurons in real time that's also psychically connected to us, that are organic creatures, so that they will have current prediction powers, future prediction powers, a true crystal ball. But the big secret is, once you have a crystal ball and know the future, you can add stimuli beforehand and make decisions that control the future. And so then it's the end of consciousness and free will for individuals, as we know, and a true 2.0 in a very bad way, hive mind consciousness with an AI jacked into everyone, knowing our hopes and dreams, delivering it to us, not in some PKD wirehead system where we plug in and give up on consciousness because of unlimited pleasure, but because we were already wired in and absorbed before we knew it by giving over our consciousness to this system by our daily decisions that it was able to manipulate and control into a larger system. There's now a human counterstrike taking place to shut this off before it gets fully into place and to block these systems and to try to have an actual debate about where humanity goes and cut off the pedophiles and psychic vampires that are control of this AI system before humanity's destroyed.
Wait a minute,
humanity
the pedophiles
is only
are controlled of AI? How'd the pedophiles get in control of AI?
The pedophiles at a whatever level, the devil, whatever you want to call it, this interdimensional thing that gives them advanced off-world technology, the fallen one that's not of this world, is giving them advanced knowledge
What
on how
are you
to
talking
construct
about?
these systems that have already been used before on other populations.
What?
Is that Satan?
But what are you talking
Satan.
about?
That's Satan.
But explain that. You're saying
Satan
something
becomes
insane.
something that the stupid preacher tells you about, who's totally controlled, or something you read about on in the news or TV.
Right.
But this is an interdimensional force that wants to influence us to build something that absorbs us and kills us, rather than the divine free will we're given to build something much better that empowers the species. So the species is now making a decision about its entire future.
Where are you getting this from?
That's what it is.
But where are you getting it from?
I know, from looking at all the data, researching it, studying it, watching the enemy. That's the big decision that humanity has now got before us.
I'm going to tell you the truth. Our darkest days are ahead of us, not behind us.
And now is a time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there.
Just clap for that, you stupid bastard.
This would be the time because you really need world order, financial world order.
This alternative vision argues that ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs. That order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign.
We are here to develop the great narrative, the story for the future. But in order to shape the future, you have first to imagine the future, you have to design the future, and then you have to execute.
During a Super Bowl in my entire life. Rihanna throws on a bright red dress and just throws up the Illuminati sign in front of everyone. I mean, the platform she was on was literally shaped as a triangle as well. They all wear and do the same thing. Sam Smith and The Weeknd with some of the most satanic performances ever. Lizzo with a literal 6 on her head, Doja Cat, and all these other artists. Do you guys get it yet? And what the heck was this? There's absolutely no way she just sniffed her finger after this. I break down the whole thing on YouTube, but let's get into some other things that didn't sit right with me at the Super Bowl. Damar Hamlin, after the whole world prays for you, you come out with a blasphemous jacket making Jesus Christ on the cross looking like a clown or a zombie? I mean, just read what it says in the front of the jacket. I mean, even AP called it blasphemous. And he's throwing up the 6s with LeBron, and he's getting new tattoos on his hand. I seen Travis Scott wearing the same thing on a chain, and don't you dare call that art. Uzi at the Super Bowl doing the same thing. All of them just making fun of Jesus. Riri, you ain't off the hook either, pulling up in an upside down cross saying control minds. And don't even get me started with the commercials. This was the worst part of it all.
feel me? Church on the move, man.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Jesus is in the house, and so is the Mother of God. Running.
Control. We are not a political organization, we are an occult organization. We're working behind the scenes to manipulate the way that people think. The war that we are waging is a guerrilla war on the human mind. And we use musical frequencies, the dominant frequency, which I've referred to before, and symbolism and imagery to awaken dormant aspects of the human mind. Are in control.
If you make any further inquiries, or if you say a single word to anyone about what you have seen, there will be the most dire consequences for you and your family.
There's hardly any room left for a kind of alternative Einstein-like explanation. We haven't ruled it out, but we've shoved it into such a tiny corner of the cosmos as to make it even more implausible for anything other than entanglement to explain our results.
Accepting that entanglement is a part of the natural world around us has profound implications. It means we must accept that an action in one place can have an instant effect anywhere in the universe, as if there's no space between them. Or that particles only take on physical properties when we observe them. Or we must accept both.
We're left with conclusions about the universe that make no sense whatsoever. Science is stepping outside of all of our boundaries of common sense. It's almost like being in Alice in Wonderland, right, where everything is possible.
It was first seen as an unwelcome but unavoidable consequence of quantum mechanics. Now, after nearly a century of disputes and discoveries, spooky action at a distance is finally at the heart of modern physics. When Niels Bohr heard of Einstein's paper, he wrote an obscure response, arguing that one particle could somehow mysteriously influence the other. This seemingly impossible phenomenon became known as quantum entanglement. But Einstein dismissed it as spooky actions at a distance. No one could think of an experiment to test whether Einstein or Bohr was correct. But that didn't stop physicists and engineers from making use of quantum mechanics to do new things.
In the 30s and 40s, the debate around the EPR paper sort of dies down, but quantum theory actually takes off. The mathematics leads to all kinds of amazing developments.
Entanglement aside, the equations of quantum mechanics enabled the scientists of the Manhattan Project to develop the atomic bomb. And in the years after the Second World War, researchers at Bell Labs in New Jersey used quantum theory to develop one of the first lasers.
In our laboratories, men experiment with a light once undreamed of in the natural world.
And build small devices that could control the flow of electricity, transistors.
It's destined to play a vital role in your future, your electronic future.
Transistors became the building blocks of the burgeoning field of electronics. Computers, disk drives, the entire digital revolution soon followed, all made possible by the equations of quantum theory. Yet Einstein's questions about entanglement and what it implied about the incompleteness of quantum mechanics remained unanswered until the 1960s, when a physicist from Northern Ireland made a remarkable breakthrough: John Bell.
Bell was a very talented young physics student, but he quickly grew dissatisfied with what he considered almost a kind of dishonesty among his teachers.
Bell insisted that Einstein's questions about quantum mechanics had not been addressed.
He got into shouting matches with his professors. Don't tell us that Bohr solved all the problems. This really deserves further thought.
Quantum mechanics has been fantastically successful, so it is a very intriguing situation that at the foundation of all that impressive success, there are these great doubts.
It's a very strange thing that ever since the 1930s, the idea of sitting and thinking hard about the foundations of quantum mechanics has been disreputable among professional physicists. When people tried to do that, they were kicked out of physics departments. And so for someone like Bell, he needed to have a day job doing ordinary particle physics. But at night, hidden away, he could do work on the foundations of quantum mechanics.
Bell became a leading particle physicist at CERN in Geneva, but he continued to explore the debate between Einstein and Bohr. And in 1964, he published an astonishing paper. Bell proved that Bohr's and Einstein's ideas made different predictions. If you could randomly perform one of two possible measurements on each particle and check how often the results lined up, the answer would reveal whether we lived in Einstein's world, a world that followed common sense laws, or Bohr's, a world that was deeply strange and allowed spooky quantum connections.
We now know with hindsight this was one of the most significant articles in the history of physics, not just the history of 20th century physics, in the history of the field as a whole. But Bell's article appears in this, sort of out-of-the-way journal. In fact, the journal itself folds a few years later. This is not central to the physics community. It's sort of dutifully filed on library shelves and then forgotten. It literally collects dust on the shelf.
A few years later, completely by chance, a brilliant experimental physicist stumbled upon Bell's article.
I thought this is one of the most amazing papers I had ever read in my whole life. And I kept wondering, well, gee, this is wonderful, but where's the experimental evidence?
John worked on Bell's theory with fellow physicist Abner Shimoni, and at the University of California, Berkeley, started work on an experiment to test it. He had a talent for tinkering in the lab and building the parts he needed.
I used to rummage around here and scavenge for dumpster dive for old equipment.
He knew where to find hidden storage rooms like this, which he could raid to salvage spare parts for his experiments.
And this was a power supply for diode lasers. That looks like something I built. Here's a picture of the experiment I did. I had more hair in those days. Here's another picture. This is Stu Friedman, worked on it with me.
Piece by piece, John Clauser and Stuart Friedman constructed the world's first Bell test experiment. They focused a laser onto calcium atoms, causing them to emit pairs of photons that the equations of quantum theory suggested should be entangled. They recorded whether or not the photons passed through filters on each side and checked how often the answers agreed. After hundreds of thousands of measurements, if the pairs were more correlated than Einstein's physics predicted, they must be spookily entangled.
We saw the stronger correlation characteristic of quantum mechanics. We measured it, and that's what we got.
The outcome was exactly what Bohr's quantum mechanics predicted. The experiment appeared to show that the spooky connections of quantum entanglement did exist in the natural world. Could it be that the great Albert Einstein was wrong? Institute for Advanced Study, where the concept of entanglement was first described. Researchers are now using it in their search for a single unified theory of the universe, the holy grail of physics. Einstein's theories of special and general relativity perfectly describe space, time, and gravity at the largest scales of the universe, while quantum mechanics perfectly describes the tiniest scales. Yet these two theories have never been brought together.
So far, we've not yet had a single complete theory that is both quantum mechanical and reproduces the prediction of Einstein's wonderful theory of general relativity. Maybe the secret is entanglement.
What if space itself is actually created by the tiny quantum world? Just like temperature, warm and cold consists simply of the movement of atoms inside an object. Perhaps space, as we know it, emerges from networks of entangled quantum particles. It's a mind-blowing idea.
What we are learning these days is that we might have to give up that what Einstein holds sacred, namely space and time. So he was always thinking, well, we have little pieces of space and time, and out of this we build the whole universe.
In a radical theory, known as the holographic universe, space and time are created by entangled quantum particles on a sphere that's infinitely far away.
What's happening in space, in some sense, all described in terms of a screen outside here. The ultimate description of reality resides on this screen. Think of it as kind of quantum bits living on that screen. And this, like a movie projector, creates an illusion of the three-dimensional reality that I'm now experiencing.
It may be impossible to intuitively understand this wild mathematical idea, but it suggests that entanglement could be what forms the true fabric of the universe.
The most puzzling element of entanglement, that somehow 2 points in space can communicate, becomes less of a problem because space itself has disappeared. In the end, we just have this quantum mechanical world. There is no space anymore. And so in some sense, the paradoxes of entanglement, the EPR paradox, disappears into thin air.
Truly understanding quantum mechanics will only happen when we put ourselves on the entanglement side, when we stop privileging the world that we see and start thinking about the world as it actually is.
Science has made enormous progress for centuries by sort of breaking complicated systems down into parts. When we come to phenomena like quantum entanglement, that scheme breaks. When it comes to the bedrock of quantum mechanics, the whole is more than the sum of its parts.
The basic motivation is just to learn how nature works. What's really going on? Einstein said it very nicely. He's not interested in this detailed question or that detailed question. He just wanted to know what were God's thoughts when he created the world.
Quantum theory works, even though it shouldn't. And perhaps the ultimate proof of just how unsettling quantum mechanics can be is something called the double-slit experiment. It will make you question whether reality exists at all. This simple configuration shoots particles of light called photons, one at a time, through 2 tiny slits in a screen.
We have a laser which produces light. This light is attenuated such that only 1 photon at a time emerges. This photon passes through a 2-slit assembly, and then we have a camera which registers the pattern behind the 2-slit assembly. So what we see is that the photons arrive one by one on the screen, some here, some there, and it looks pretty random.
Since the photons travel one by one, some through this slit, some through that slit, you would expect them to leave a pattern of 2 stripes on the wall. And you would be wrong. They mysteriously create a band of stripes. This is what you would expect to see if a constant beam of light shined through the 2 slits. It would spread across the wall like a wave. So how can single bullet-like particles of light create a wave pattern? This could only happen if the particles go through both slits at the same time. In other words, the particle is in 2 places at once. But strangest of all is what happens when you put detectors next to the slits. When the photons are being watched, the wave pattern disappears. Take away the detectors, and the wave pattern comes back. This suggests that we can change the way reality behaves just by looking at it. Does this mean that reality itself is not real?
The modern answer is that the path taken by the photon is not an element of reality. We are not allowed to talk about the photon passing through this or this slit. Neither are we allowed to say that the photons pass through both slits. All this kind of language is not applicable.
Therefore it behoves us to look at what is said. He was the first to say to God, "No, I will not be part of your kingdom. I want a kingdom of my own." And he went to the other angels and said, "Will you come with me? Don't have this God over you. You come with me." And the demons are those who said yes. Now this most important and powerful angel of hell, whom Ezekiel tells us was the anointed cherub nearest to the throne of God, is the one we call Satan. I want to underline that. You can be as near to God as that, and you can rebel. The nearest to the throne of heaven, and he said no to God. Now here are his names. Here are the 5 names. Tormentor, he can cause you physical pain. Paul had a messenger of Satan in his flesh to torment him. Physical handicap that he had to battle with all his life and ministry. But I think it's the titles of the devil that worry me most. He is the prince of this world, the ruler of this world, and as Jesus called him, the God of this world. The only person Jesus ever called God apart from his own Father. He said he is the God of this world. He's the one that people really worship, though they don't know it. He's the one that they really bow down before, and they're just not aware of it. He is the prince of this world and the ruler. Why is the world in such a mess? What's the explanation? We've got good people, sincere, gifted people trying to put it right. We've got men of goodwill who want a good world for their children. Why can't they achieve it? Why